Hey guys, my name is Kodik, and in this video I'll be showing you guys how to connect to the Discord gateway using JavaScript. And in my last video I showed you guys how to do this in Python, but I didn't really show you guys how to keep up the connection with heart beating, so I'm gonna do that in this video though. So everything you need to know about how to connect to the Discord gateway using JavaScript you'll learn in this video. So to get started, we are going to create a new file. I'm going to name it app.js. And I am also going to open up CMD inside here, and I'm going to type npm init y, which is going to just initialize a package.json so that we can install the required libraries that we need for this tutorial. Now, once we have these two files, we can right click on here and open it up in Visual Studio Code, which is my preferred editor of choice. So it's right here. Now I'm going to open up the app.js, and the first thing we need to do here is to install the WebSocket library. So what you want to type is npm install ws, hit enter. It's going to install fairly quickly, and once you have it you can see it inside your package.json. Now you can open up app.js again, and the first thing we are going to do is to import WebSocket. So const WebSocket equals require ws. So this is the library we're going to be using to connect to the Discord gateway. It's basically just a library that allows us to easily handle WebSockets in JavaScript. Now the next thing we need to do is to actually initialize this. So we're going to create a new object from the WebSocket class, and inside here we want to put in the Discord gateway link or URL, and this is basically just this. You can just copy this from the description below. I'm going to put it right there. Right, so once you have put that in there, the next thing you need to do is to just define a variable outside here that's going to be the heartbeat interval. So I'm just going to let this be 0 for now, but this is of course going to change once we get the heartbeat value from Discord. The next thing we need to do is to import or just set our token. So token equals and then our token, and we can get our token by going into Discord, hitting Ctrl+Shift+I, and then just type anything inside any channel, and you'll be sending a typing event which you can just click on, scroll down, and you'll be able to see your authorization token right here. So you want to copy the authorization token, then you can close this developer tools, go back to Visual Studio Code or whatever editor that you're using, paste it inside here, and there you have your token. Now the next thing we're going to do is to define our payload object, which is what we are going to send to Discord to basically identify ourselves. It takes the OP code of 2, which is the identification OP code, and then it takes a few other things, one of them being the token, and we've already defined that. And the next thing is the intent. So type intent, see if I can spell it correctly, and the intent is going to be 513, which will allow us to get all of the messages from the channel, which if you remember from the last video, we can just put in anything. So OS, or actually we have to put in 3 different keys, but the values can be anything. So OS, we're just going to type Linux in here. As for the browser, I am going to type Chrome, and then the last thing is the device, which I'm just going to type Chrome as well. So this is our payload. We don't need anything else than this to send to the gateway to identify ourselves. So as soon as we have the payload, we can open up a connection. So now we can use the object that we instantiated up here by typing ws, and then in parentheses you want to type open. And then the next parameter is just going to be a function. We can call it open, doesn't really need any parameters, but inside here we are going to send to the WebSocket our payload. So JSON.stringify, we don't need to import anything because Node.js already has the JSON library installed. So JSON.stringify, and then the payload, which is going to send the payload to Discord to identify ourselves. So the next thing we need to do is to listen to the message event. So ws on, then message, and then we need another function inside here, which is going to give us back, which I'm gonna name it incoming, and it's going to give us back the data. So basically the thing we get from Discord, and then we can do things with this data, whatever we want. So we want to get the payload, which is basically the whole data object, but it's not really an object, so we have to parse it. So that's why we do JSON.parse and then pass in the data. Now we have this parse, now we can use this payload to do whatever we want with it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna destructure it. So I'm gonna take out the T, the event, the OP, and the D from payload. So now we got these 4 constants. So I'm going to make a switch statement here to check the OP code, because the OP code is different for every event that the Discord Gateway API sends to us. So we only want to print out the message once the OP code is actually the equivalent of a message, so that we don't get any errors. So we're going to make a switch statement here. The case 10 is where Discord sends us back the heartbeat interval that we need to use to keep pinging Discord to keep up the connection. So with this, we're going to make a new variable or new constant. It's going to be the heartbeats interval, and we're going to get that straight from the D constant. Now the next thing we're going to do is to set our interval variable up there to a function that we're going to write later. So I'm just going to type it out either way, but I'm going to comment it out. So the function is going to be called heartbeats, and it's going to take in the heartbeat interval. It's basically just going to be a set interval. So that's why you pass this in, so that we can send or set the interval inside a set interval function, so we can keep up the connection. But we don't really have this function yet, so I'm going to comment it out. But after this, of course, we're just going to break because it's a case statement. You can handle multiple OP codes, but for this video, we're just going to handle the 10. But if you want to have any error handling, you should probably handle multiple error codes. You can see all of them on the Discord gateway documentation. So our next switch statement is going to check for the T, which is basically the event that gets sent back to us. We're going to see if the event is message create, since we're going to create a logger like I did in the last video. So message creates. Oh, I forgot to close this switch statement up here. Here we go. So if the case is message create, then we are going to take out the author, which will come from d.author.username, and then we are also going to take out the content, which will come from d.content. So after this, we should just log this to the console, since as I said, we're going to create a logger, but you can do anything you want with this really. So we're just going to console log. Let me do a template string here. Inside here, we're just going to console log first the author colon the content. For every message, it's going to log this to the console. Now the last thing we need to do is to implement the heartbeat function, which as I said is going to allow us to keep the connection alive, since if we don't heartbeat, then after like 30 seconds or so, we're gonna get disconnected. So we need to create the heartbeats function. I'm gonna name it heartbeat. As I did up there, it's going to take the milliseconds which we pass in up there, and then with this we're just going to return a set interval, which is going to take an anonymous function, and in this we're just going to send we're going to stringify an object, and this object is just going to take or send an OP, which is going to be 2, which is an heartbeat OP code. Then we really don't need anything else, so the D is just going to be null. This will let Discord know that we still want the connection to be alive. And then of course we need to enter in the interval as well, which we got up here. So we can just take milliseconds, put it in here, and that's literally all. And if we scroll up here, if you remember, we pass in the heartbeat interval as the milliseconds up here. So now we can uncomment this code, save it, and this is basically everything we need to do to connect to the gateway. If I start to run this by just hitting node app.js, nothing is gonna happen because we literally only console log whenever we get a message. So now if I type anything here, like hello, we are going to get it in the console. Now to show you guys that it's actually real time, let me type something. It's right there. Like there is literally no delay. And I'm also going to join a server so that you guys can see all of the messages that are being sent inside the server. So I'm gonna just join this. There you see Mirai sent this, welcome, and then I guess we have to verify ourselves. Alright, so as you can see, the console is getting filled with every message that is sent in here, and that's basically all I wanted to show you guys in this video. And if you found it helpful, then please leave a like down below and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.